And we're back. Always amazing to me as I still learn to do those commercials. I restarted the Facebook thing. I put live, it said we were live, and then it might have went off live for a while. So if you're on Facebook and you're just getting us back, the whole broadcast will be re-put back here. But thank you for joining us if you're in the Facebook group, and thanks for joining us if you're on Turfs Up. So ask us some questions. Have some questions for Nancy and her journey. Okay, so into courage. What in the journey of starting this business, there's lots of courageous decisions I'm sure you've had to make, but if you have one that you can think back on, or something that stood out, what would it be?
My most courageous decision was probably admitting to myself that I had to close the retail store. Couple of things. Like, once I had babies, my first baby, I knew that it wasn't a good fit. And I was not like invested in it the way I should be. And I probably held on to it about 6 months longer than I should have. And then actually sitting down and realizing how in debt I was probably even more courageous.
Having to look at it, yeah.
And figuring out how I was going to dig myself out of that hole while I was trying to buy the house that we were remodeling with a newborn. And save my landscaping business at the same
time.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
My partner had a baby. I had a baby. And we had to close the store, and I hadn't gotten the loan for my house yet. And I had to get a loan to pay off the debt from the store. So we were extremely creative about how we did that.
Yeah.
And my husband helped me, and we did it. Like, I was given 10 years to pay it all off, and we paid it off in 3.
Of course you did. I can tell thinking of that, though, like some emotions still come up of that. Like,
oh yeah.
We look at things at the time so much as a failure, or they feel like they are. And really, it's just, something that was supposed to be met on the journey. Like, that wasn't the path you're supposed to be going on at that point. And there's something else. But it's hard to get over. I was listening to something this morning on, as that entrepreneurial spirit and success driven, you never want to think you're quitting something. Or, that you're quitting.
Yep.
That thing of like, I'm giving up, I'm quitting, I'm failing. And how to differentiate it in your mind of,
or how do I tell everybody, and how do I explain this, and what is everyone going to think, and everything. But I'm a failure.
And then even, of course, you're not a failure. But I think the first thing is I've found in those situations, because I've had those same journeys of bottom and then up, is first redefining it for yourself of, this wasn't a failure. I didn't quit. I chose to pivot at the right moment. And I know this choice to pivot means something even better on the other side.
It definitely did.
What does courage mean to you?
Oh, gosh. I think courage means a lot of things to me. I was thinking about this question earlier. One thing, I think the number one thing I've learned on my journey, my spiritual journey in the past 3 years, due to some things that happened in our family, really in the past 5 years, 3 years. I almost lost my mom 5 years ago to a horrible disease. They gave her 20% chance to live. She fought through it, made it. Courage to me, and this is going to be different for everybody, is to be there. Like, I stood by her side through all of it. I spent a whole month with her in the hospital. She came and lived with me for 5 months after, and not being afraid. I stood by my dad's bedside when he died. I was with my grandpa until the day that he died. I was with him when he died. Like, things like that. Not wanting to look back and go, man, I wish I would have done that different. Too late. Courage also is setting boundaries. I've learned. Those are family boundaries, friend boundaries. This year they became business boundaries, boundaries with clients, things like that. Courage also means loving yourself, self-love. Like, and that's, I know, like, that's so cliche right now, but it is. Like,
Not
you
at all.
truly
Yeah.
cannot love your children or anyone else until you truly love yourself. And that's been a really eye-opening thing for me. The courage to empower others has been huge. And the courage to empower other women has been huge for me. I mean, we met through your book, but also through Lit.
Yep.
Was the first place I saw you, and that group has been incredible for me, incredibly eye-opening for me, and just that you can all work together as women. Like, I was a guy's girl. I grew up with very few girlfriends and lots of guy friends, and then ended up in a male-dominated industry where, like, if a girl came in, it was like, nope. And so Lit has completely changed me. And an industry group called Divas of the Dirt has completely changed me into having the courage to make those female relationships. So I have a lot in courage, a lot of different places, I guess.
Yeah, you hit on a lot of them that I love all of them. Like you said, the self-love is so important unless you're willing to, what you said, you've been on that journey, and unless you are willing to like heal and work on yourself and really do that, you can't really love your kids or be accepting of other people or enter relationships without judgment. And it's a hard thing to face and think about, but I think that I've come to that realization, and that's maybe you. I've been more comfortable now in these communities, and then influencing and helping other women as well, is unless you do that part first and are willing to like really have the awareness, really do the work on yourself and that self-love, you don't feel comfortable in environments, whether it be men or communities of women, because you're so judging yourself. You might come across as this amazing, confident, strong, badass. But really it's uncomfortable because you don't really want to be seen.
Yep. I still get this.
You're not willing to see yourself, and it's a journey. We all go back and forth, right? But
forever journey, like forever.
So whatever communities, men, women, the green industry, business, whatever parts of you don't want to be seen, you're afraid. Well, I think it's scary to show up in those environments.
Absolutely.
It's easier to hide in ones where people don't really want to see you. They're not real relationships or real things. And it's easier to show up there because you don't have to be authentic or be seen. So you unpacked a lot of stuff, and you talked about the community, and I have become such a big believer in that community and other communities and the difference that is. And I guess that's an awakening to me as well, because I probably, when I'm like, wow, were there communities before? Was community important before? And I'm like, well, maybe that's because I was hiding from them. But in my journey and in working with other people and now helping to build different communities, whether it be in this space or business communities or with women, now I think community is like the most important thing of finding those communities in small communities, whether it be the large ones or just a community of the people, of the 5 people in your life that are that stretch you, that challenge you, that see some of your blind spots and growth and are your biggest cheerleaders, but that it is one of the biggest decisions you need to make in your life is to be conscious of those communities and put yourself in them, because they support courage. So tell me a little bit about, you touched on it with Lit, but how that has evolved and the importance of community to you.
I think, well, not only the importance of community, but I think the importance of like being well-rounded in the community. I've really found, so I'm a forever learner. Like I am curious about everything, anything and everything. Like I have no problem talking to people. I can talk to anybody in a coffee line, in a grocery line. Like I can drum up a conversation with anyone. I've found so many friendships randomly, and also through clients. Like some of my clients are the best people in my life, and have been the most supportive people in my life. So I think like for me, just putting myself out there and not being afraid to talk, or sometimes I talk too much probably, and probably offer too much opinion or too much advice unsolicited. But like I just want to be um, of service in the community wherever I can. So if it's telling my story about sobriety, if it's telling my story about childhood, if it's telling my story about my mom almost dying, or whatever it is, there's lots of things about grief, about whatever, raising kids, having babies, all of those things. So I have like a community at school, and then I have a community at daycare. I have the Lit community. I have my industry community. And I feel like just having those different communities, and then I have a nonprofit community with Project Intentional. And I just feel like having those different communities helps keep you well-rounded in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it feeds that curiosity all the time. Like I like to be involved, but it's also been scary to get involved. But I've had to just do it, and take the time to do it. That's the other thing. You can always be, I'm too busy. I'm this, I'm that, whatever. I mean, I still don't do a lot at night. While my kids are little, night gigs are not my thing. But I do try to do as much as I can during the day, aside the days my kids are out of school. So whether it's volunteering up at school, or if it's leading a Lit networking, or if it's helping with Project Intentional's Winter Wonderland, or whatever it is, like I'm here for it, and and running my business, of course.
Yeah. Still trying to do it all. But
Yeah.
I like what you said about like being present and showing up. And that was one of your things encouraged. I didn't mean to skip over when you were saying being present for like your parents and stuff like that. And it does take a lot of courage to show up. But in the community thing, yeah, you have to make a decision to make an investment. It's not just in yourself, to be there for other people and to continue to show up over and over.
I truly believe that like you are what you eat. And that goes for like the people you hang out with too.
Mm-hmm.
You can either hang out with people that are as good or as successful as you, or and people that empower you and lift you up and make you feel better, or you can hang out with people that want to take advantage of you and put you down all the time. And that's just, I mean, it's the choice is yours.
Yep, exactly. And it makes a huge difference in the rest of your life, whether you're going to spiral up and or whether you're going to let those people suck you down.
Yep.
So we talk about community. I love talking about how when we talk about courage, like what do you do in your life to support taking courage and leading yourself well? Things like morning routine, the books you read, the things you digest, the people that you're around, of that it all begins, our leadership, as parents, as business owners, as good friends, that it really all begins with leading ourselves well, willing to do that deep work. Those are all the things I kind of talk about. What does leading yourself well mean to you?
Leading myself well, there's a couple of things. One is every morning I do at least a 5-minute guided meditation. Sometimes I do it twice a day, 2 different ones, just depends. I like to EFT tap for my anxiety. It helps just calm me down and get me centered in the morning. So I usually do meditation or EFT tapping when I wake up. The key to me thriving is going to bed early, like when my kids go to bed, and getting up early, and that's 4 or 4:30 in the morning. And it's never been a time for me to work out like a lot of people get up and work out. I'm more of like a 8:30, 9 o'clock workout. So I like to get up. I like to read. I like to get the kids all ready for school. It's all of like my quiet time, the time where nobody's talking to me. I can just think through everything. The first thing I do is make my coffee. And now I have these 2 kittens that love to hang out with me in the morning. They literally, the minute I sit up in bed, they're right there, which was a huge key because we lost our final pet, which was my dog of 13 years last March. And I still have a hole in my heart over it. So I'm really glad that we acquired these 2 kittens this fall, so I wouldn't be home alone this winter.
Oh,
They've brought more joy than I ever expected. And so, yeah, morning routines are super important to me. And I do notice when I don't get up early, how behind the 8 ball I feel. But I mean, there are just some mornings, and I'm sure where you just have to listen and sleep in.
yes, that sleep's important too. We all know how important sleep is to our health. So if something was off and you can't get to sleep, but I am the fellow wake up at 4:30 every morning. And people always say, which I'm sure they do, like, are you a morning person? And no, I'm really not. Not like I'm like, woo, but like you said, it's the only time that you get to yourself.
Yep.
It's not like people
questions and emails and text
active
messages.
and everyone's like that you should be getting to other things. Like no one's really asking you a question at at 4:30 a.m. for the most part.
For the most
It
part.
depends how many other people you share the 4:30 a.m. thing with, and then they're up and you're like, oh, I know she's up. So
I'm like, well, now I can talk to Angela at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, goodness. But I love hearing other people spin on what they do with those, quiet hours of that. I love that yours is meditation. So I am a total anxiety ADD, but I have to do the workout first thing before the meditation. Like I've tried switching around to being quiet and then doing the workout later, because thinking like, okay, I need to use the quietest hours for these things like you do.
Yeah.
And then do the workout, because I'm not going to pick up my phone when I'm working out. But I got to get the energy out.
Yeah.
I got to move. And I say do a brain dump, like everything that is, spinning around in your head, all the stuff that you woke up with, all the junk. So I work out and brain dump, and then I do the meditation.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm like, meditation, call this person.
Oh yeah. All the things. Yep. Got to go do this. Got to email this person. Gotta do that.
But I love that everyone has a different thing of what that means, of how you feel most centered. And I totally agree with you that even though I don't love the alarm going off at 4:30, I love the feeling less of being, I describe it as feeling like somebody threw me off the high dive into the day.
Yeah.
And
like you're drowning. I always feel like I'm drowning.
It's going to be like this all day.
All day.
Because I didn't get on top of it. So
all day. And I've also started journaling a lot. And I have a spiritual coach that's helping me with that. um, with the journaling and the telling the story, telling my story, but also like, um, it's going to sound crazy for a lot of people, but soul retrieval, because I have a lot of stuff that happened when I was a kid that I've buried.
That doesn't sound crazy.
So she's helping me bring those memories back and like um, accept them, live in
Yeah.
them, live with them. And so I've been writing about them and having good conversations with my mom about them, which is really good for both her and I.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
getting some, I would say, closure on things because my dad is gone, and he's been gone for 15 years. So it's nice to get some of that back. And so I've been writing about a lot of that in the
I
morning
think
mornings.
I think that's one of the, or is the biggest part of leading yourself well, of how much of that work that you're willing to do on yourself. And no matter what the story is, everyone has stuff, right? We all have, and
Yes.
not to say yours is any less
Yes.
significant, or we don't know what people's stories are, but unless you are willing to go there
Yeah.
and unpack the baggage, all of it that we shoved so far down in. And I do believe people of our personality, entrepreneurs, people that are driven and I'm going to do it, I'm going to go conquer it, shove so much more stuff down from an early age because that's the personality. Like, I'm not going to let that stop me.
Yep.
I don't care that that happens. That's going to make me stronger. And
Yeah.
instead, we swallow all that stuff. And because maybe society taught us that, of like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to out achieve that.
Yep.
I can just out
Push,
achieve
push,
everything
push.
that happens. Push
Yep.
harder
Yep.
and push it down. And eventually that all bubbles up into patterns that we've created with ourselves and the way that we treat other people. And I think the biggest thing we can do for leading ourselves well and leading other people is exactly what you're doing, is digging deep into our souls and being willing to see all
Yep.
that stuff,
Yep.
revisit it again, and really that the level of darkness that we're able to see in ourselves, that unless you're willing to see all that, it has the power instead of you having
Yep.
the power to overcome it.
I had to have a huge like awakening moment 3 years ago, and had to make some decisions about my family. My husband has been like my ultimate cheerleader since the day I met him. He's the one that set me on the real path to sobriety and stood by my side while I did it. And a lot of this stuff started bubbling up when I had kids, really my daughter, um, because I didn't want her to go through some of the crazy patterns that I had been through.
Yeah.
And not to say that, and I know like my kids are going to have their own traumas from growing up, whether it's from when they were born or when they're 5 or when they're 10, 20, whatever. Like you said, everybody has their own stuff. I'm not going to parent them perfect. I just want to parent them the best that I can. And that means me cleaning some of this up for myself.
Yep. Absolutely. I'll probably talk a whole lot more about healing because I'm very passionate about it in weeks to come. And right now I am listening to the book, David Goggins' second book. I forget what it's called. But there's tons of stuff I love on healing, but that's what he was talking about as I was listening this morning as well. Just like different people being, that, and he talks about it in such a different way that I'm sure that it's coming across as we're like more gentle and
Yes.
women, he is this like Navy SEAL that's like, work through your damn baggage, like
Do it.
it doesn't discount the importance of what it is and how important it is. So
Yeah.
We're going to take our final commercial break, and then we'll be back. Again, if you are with us here on Facebook, be sure that you say hello and ask us some final questions. Okay, so as we wrap up all this conversation, I'm like, what final questions do I want to ask you? How about one thing? I mean, you shared a lot you've learned in the journey in the last 3 years, but if there's one thing that you learned, and this could be on a light side or the deep side we've gone on, something you've learned in the last year that has changed your perspective, your business, or your life? Or all three.
One of my biggest things, and I don't know if this has been in the past year, but I think it's super important to healing, is having the courage to be vulnerable, and transparent. Like, I just think that is how we love our community and our universe, is to be as vulnerable and transparent with one another as we can. Because you never know, like, when someone is struggling with the same exact thing you are. I think it's really easy to feel like, and I know I've felt this in the past a lot, like, I'm the only one going through this. I'm the only one dealing with this. I'm the only one who's lonely. I can be surrounded by my children and my husband and still feel lonely. And I think being vulnerable about things like that is what's going to pull us all together.
Yes.
And really change the world. And being honest. That's just being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of my biggest things.
I would agree with that, and that's been one of my biggest shifts too. The importance of vulnerability, twofold. You said it at the end. One, the importance of vulnerability for yourself. The difference in being able to be vulnerable. So back to that importance of community, because I think we first need to find, as we're practicing it and learning it and it's coming out, we need to find places and relationships that are really safe spaces to be vulnerable, right? And then once we've practiced it, once we've strengthened that courage muscle, strengthened that vulnerability, then it's easier. We're more confident in, and not that it's safe, that it's always being vulnerable in every way, in every aspect. I'm not saying that, but it is then, once you've practiced that vulnerability, then you can have more confidence in doing it and sharing your story on a bigger audience, not because of you, but because, like you said, for the people that can identify with it and think, not me. And that goes to so many things, not just these personal things and healing and things that we're talking about, but in, business communities and high level thoughts of that as well. I think it can be so isolating at times being an entrepreneur, and most of your friends or your family, your partner, different things like that, the things that you're feeling as an entrepreneur, because some shift went really wrong, you didn't handle a team member correctly, you've got different things going on in the business, and it really helps to have people and other people that you can identify with, so that you're like, oh, I'm not alone, or I'm not crazy, and other people are thinking this and going through these business struggles as well.
Absolutely.
Because I like how you said, you can be not alone. You can be surrounded by people, but
and just because they haven't been through the same exact thing you have been through doesn't mean they haven't been through things that are equally as hard.
Yes.
And can't like lock arms with you and be like, let's go. Let's do this. Let's be a team of community together. Like, what do you need me to do with? What do you need me to do?
Lock arms.
How can I support you?
Yes. So I talked several times about community, and I want you guys to know, don't hesitate to send me a message, post in the group, or reach out, and I will post some of the resources in the show notes as well. But I think a lot of times, like, we're sitting here talking about the fabulous communities that we're in and help to build. And you might be thinking, what the heck are these? I've never heard of these. Where do we find these? So reach out and we'll connect you to ones. Just like Nancy said, she's a part of several different ones with different aspects in her life. Last week, I had James Mansky on here, and he's built an incredible green industry community. And oh, it muted me for a second. Can you hear me again?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I don't have
Sorry.
There you are.
We lost me for a second. Those of you on the radio could maybe still hear, and then we lost him. Who knows? Who knows why we go on and off? We're back. So I was saying, I'm going to repeat that. If you don't have resources for a community or wondering what the heck we're talking about, don't hesitate to send a message. I'll post some in the show notes for the podcast as well. I said last week we had James Mansky on here, and he talked about his green industry community, which I got to be a part of building, and just that's a phenomenal group. Nancy talked about ones in diverse places in her life that she was a part of, so we can connect you to those. It's just important to have people that are your cheerleaders, and a great support, great resource as well. And I did say, in case the people on here didn't see it, I will be a part of Collaborate Live, which is a great business network with Dave Kaminsky later on. It's at 6:30 Central on Wednesdays as well. So those are fabulous resources. Okay, so last question, unless I ask one more that I had, burning question that I had for you, but from somebody on Facebook, what helped you set boundaries in your life, specifically with family, friends, and those sort of boundaries?
Oh man, the family one came from me deciding that I wanted things different for my family, my immediate family, my children, and my husband. And I had to set boundaries with a few people in my family without choice. And it took a lifetime to create those boundaries. But I'll tell you what, like, sticking to the boundaries is where the freedom of life comes in. Mm. You can create all the boundaries you want, but if you don't stick to them, there's no freedom. Boundaries create freedom. And that's this year in my business, I had to create boundaries, even let a couple clients go, because they were constantly pushing on the boundaries. And as hard as the decisions were, some of them were longtime clients, it had to be done. For me, for my business partner, for my family. And I'll tell you what, freedom.
That's right. Freedom in honoring yourself and taking your power back, realizing you have the power and not someone else. And I love that.
Like it takes some of that pressure off the mind. Like if you're a person like me, and I think you are, that thinks all the time and has anxiety and ADHD, like your mind is constantly moving. Boundaries are really important.
Yeah.
Really, really important.
in all aspects, as you said, not just
Well,
the family and friends, like you said, but so important in business. And when you can get to that level of confidence that you're like, bye-bye clients,
yes.
you know, if they don't honor the boundaries, that
Yeah.
takes a certain level of confidence. And we remember being there in the beginning where it's hard to let go.
Yes.
Every
Yes.
client felt like there's no way this will be the end of me.
Yes. Yes. Or you get fired and you're like, I'm done. I got fired.
I'm destroyed.
Yeah. Now I'm really better at like, just didn't work out.
Yep. Exactly. Just the freedom of, I love the word that you said that. And one of the viewers said that, using that word of freedom, the freedom to just let it go.
Let it go. Yeah. And
I think it's been so awesome. No, go ahead. Finish with that.
I said, I think the freedom comes after like repetition of boundary.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Keeping the boundary, and every time you keep that boundary, it gets a little bit easier. Yeah. And then it becomes brainless. And you're like, that's when the freedom comes, is when it's not really a boundary anymore. It's a way of life.
I like that. That's like a kind of like habits, right? It seems like so much work at first, just like boundaries, the new things that we put in place in our life, whether they are that boundary or they're a new habit or something that we're putting into place. At first, it takes so much work because it's willpower.
Yep.
And decision-making power. It's still a decision.
Yep.
And as soon as it becomes automatic.
Yep. Muscle memory.
Then it's freedom.
Yep.
Yay! Well, thank you so much. I was so excited to have you and
thank you.
Stories. And every time I'm around you, I just love your energy. And
thank you. Likewise. Likewise. Thank you so much, Angela. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great to have you. And thank you all for tuning in and listening. If you joined us and didn't hear the whole broadcast, you can download and subscribe to the podcast because you don't want to miss anything Nancy said. You can join us here each week at 4:30 on Turf's Up Radio and in the Facebook group. So everyone, make it a great week. What is one thing you are going to do to grow and get uncomfortable? See you next week.